Hey everyone, my name is Vance, and today I'm going to show you the easy way to install Windows 11 using an ISO file. So first of all, I will let you know that you want to make sure you have an empty 8 gigabit flash drive and at least 8 gigabits. You can have a flash drive that is more or whatnot, just know that it will be wiped and that all the files on this drive must be backed up because it is going to get wiped and you are going to be very sorry for your data if you lose it. So then you want to make sure you have a computer running Windows and that you have administrator privileges on it, and we need this in order to download the file and set up our flash drive in order to be bootable for the installation. In the case that you don't have a Windows computer with you, then maybe try and find maybe a friend's computer or something that has administrator privileges, just so that you can do the flash drive. It should only take about maybe 20 minutes at most to even flash the flash drive and whatnot, but downloading the Windows 11 file will take a little bit. So in addition, you also want to have 6 gigabytes of free hard drive space, and by unused space I mean the space that's on your main drive right here. I have 800 gigabytes free, but for some people they may not have this ample space, so you want to make sure you at least have 6 gigabits free. Then from there, you also want to make sure that every single other file that you're using from your operating system is backed up. And I mean this for the computer that you're going to install Windows on, because we are doing a clean install, and therefore it will wipe everything on the computer. So you want to make sure those files are backed up and that it is ready for installation. First, we want to find out what version of Windows we're using, and we want to do this on the computer that we intend to install Windows 11 on. So you're going to right-click on Start, then you're going to click Run, and I already have it typed in here, but you are essentially going to type WINVER. That is winver, stands for Windows version. You're going to click Enter, and it is going to bring up a little window that shows you the Windows version of the current computer you are using. For me, it is Windows 10 Pro. We need this because later, when we're on the installation prompt, it is either going to ask for a license key, or if you already had Windows license before, it will automatically use the key you already had, but you have to choose the right version, so that is why we are noting that down now. Then click OK. Future editor me here. I didn't put this in the video, but I'm putting this in now. You do need a 64-bit operating system in order to run Windows 11. I'm going to show you right now in the next cut how to find out if your system is a 64-bit operating system or what we call a 32-bit operating system. So I will cut to that now. To find out whether your computer will be compatible with the 64-bit infrastructure, you will quickly just type in the search bar and type in Control Panel. I cannot type today. You will type in System right here. And if your computer is really up to date, it will open Settings, but if not, it will open directly in Control Panel. But here, as you can see, mine is a 64-bit operating system, which is the only type that Windows 11 will run on. If you have a 32-bit operating system, unfortunately, this is the one thing that we can't fix about this install or bypass or anything like that. So you have to have a 64-bit operating system in order to run Windows 11. And we're going to go to our browser now. In our browser, we're going to type Windows 11 ISO download. You're going to go to the Microsoft official site. You want to make sure this URL is correct, microsoft.com. And we are going to scroll down, and this is what I meant by not the top option. They have an installation assistant, they have a installation media creation file and whatnot. We're going to be doing this a little bit more manually, but in a way it might actually be easier. So we're going to select download, click this, and then click download. Choose one. We're choosing our language, English, United States. Then we're going to hit confirm. And as Windows 11 is only available in 64-bit, we're going to click this 64-bit download. Now, for some reason, no matter what type of internet you have, and yes, it is saying 1 because I already have it downloaded for the recording part of it. But for some reason, Microsoft servers are very slow on this. Even if you have some type of high-speed internet, it is going to download really slow, and I realize that is why I already have the file on here. Anyways, though, once it downloads, which this is still downloading, but I'm just going to X out because I already have a download of it. Then you're going to open a new tab and look up Rufus. Rufus is a drive burning software for copying these files to the flash drive in order to boot to your computer and install Windows 11. There are a ton of different USB burner softwares, but I'm going to use Rufus for this video. So we're going to click Rufus, and then we're just going to scroll down here and click Rufus 3.18 and click on it, and it will click this X and it will download. A note, do not click on any of these downloads right here. These are all ads. These other things, we were only clicking on this one Rufus button and the X on that ad that popped up to download this. We're not clicking any other download button. And then we're going to open the file for Rufus, and this is where you need admin privileges, so we're going to click yes. It's going to ask if you want to check for updates. To make it easier, I'm just going to go ahead and press no. And this may look very overwhelming, but it's not. A lot of these options are going to be set default. We're not going to touch any of them. They're automatically going to set. We can also close out of our browser now that everything's downloaded. And first, we need to insert the USB flash drive. If you have other USB flash drives in your computer, I recommend taking them out. It just makes it a little bit less confusing. And making sure nothing else is plugged in. As you can see here in Rufus, it's not detecting any drive because I have taken them all out. And now I'm going to insert my flash drive into the computer. Do this. You hear that Windows has recognized the drive, and your drive might be named something entirely different. But previously I made this an install disk. But anyways, it should show up right here. I'm using a 16 gigabit drive, but like I said, 8 is the requirement for this, so you can also have an 8 gigabit drive. It doesn't matter. You will still be able to use this drive later, and I will show you at the end of the video how you can put this drive back to normal and use it for normal file use. This is also, I guess, just a warning now that on this flash drive, if you have files on here, to back up those files, because this drive is going to get wiped in order to put those installation files on there. Let's go ahead and click here, make sure this is our only drive in here. It could be any different name, it doesn't have to be the exact one. Your drive could be named something else. Then for our boot selection, you're just going to want to hit select, and from downloads, we want to select that ISO file we downloaded from Microsoft.com. So we're just going to click this, and then we're going to click open. Then you also know that Windows 11 is here. Just to make sure you've downloaded the right file, it should be Windows 11 English x64 v1. I mean, it might be like v2 or something like that, but it's basically the same thing. You're still selecting an ISO and whatnot. We will talk about this in a little bit, but essentially this just stays default. Later on, though, we'll probably get into some of this. So just, standard Windows installation, leave that default. Partition scheme, this is the thing. You basically want to have this in GPT, but you can set it to MBR if you want. Just know that if you set it to MBR, you may be missing out on some of the stuff in Windows 11, and I'm going to have to show some of you bypasses in Windows 11 that you will have to do. They are publicly known bypasses, so it's not like I'm finding these out myself and giving them to you guys. They're well-known bypasses already, and some of them are features by Microsoft, but maybe not that they directly listed. Anyways, though, so I'm going to select GPT for my installation. You can select MBR. Now, the difference between GPT and MBR is back in the day, a lot of operating systems, they use the master boot record. That's what it stands for. Essentially, GPT has more features, and GPT is the newer thing. But some computers may not support GPT and some the other way around, but that's very limited for laptops. In my case, though, I'm going to choose GPT, and then it's also going to be UEFI. Another thing that you can check really quickly to make sure that you already know which one you'll be able to use is by right-clicking on Start, Disk Management, and then in here you just want to find the disk that you have in, which would be the one that is your C drive. It says C right here and whatnot. You're just going to want to right click on this, click Properties, and then you're going to want to click on Volumes. Here you will see partition type, which one you already have, and that's what you will know, what you will need to pick for installing Windows 11, but highly recommended GPT, even if this is MBR, and because of the features and stuff like that. Future me in editing here, just saying that the disk you are checking should be on the computer that you're installing it on, because if you're checking the disk of the computer that you're just getting the files from, and that's not the one that you're getting it from, then it most likely won't match what partition scheme, MBR or GPT that you're trying to install. So you want to make sure you're opening disk management on the machine that you intend to install Windows on to check this. Chances are, though, if it is an MBR, you might not be able to run Windows 11 anyways, but then again, we have a bypass for that, so you'll still be able to run it either way. Then we will click this X right here, and we will then close out of disk management, and I'm going to select GPT right here, and then we don't have to do anything here, we don't have to change anything here, and then we can essentially just click Start, and this will warn you that all the data on the drive is going to be wiped. So to make sure that you've backed up all the files from that flash drive, and then you can click OK, and it is going to wipe the drive. It's going to start copying over the files from that ISO file to make them bootable, so you can boot off the flash drive and install Windows on your drive. Some of you might be wondering why we have to use a flash drive for this. The reason is because the installation will be wiping your main hard drive in order to install Windows. As it's called a clean install, it will wipe out your entire main drive and whatnot. So we need the files to be on a second drive that's not being wiped, so you can install successfully. I will go ahead and cut to the end of this right here. And as we can see, Rufus is about to finish flashing the drive with these new boot files that we're going to use to install Windows 11. And as we can see, Windows has finished flashing the drive with the Windows 11 installation files. For some of you, you may receive a little pop-up that just lets you know you're booting in UEFI and whatnot. You can go ahead and click close on that. If you flashed your drive in MBR mode, you won't have to worry about that. Some people for GPT you may have to. For me, it didn't pop up, so I'm just going to, you can close out of that if that does pop up, and then I'm going to close out of Rufus now that it says ready and it's green. I'm going to close this, and now I can go and eject my flash drive. For you, it should show a safe to remove hardware thing, but since I'm recording, Windows for some reason put my notifications on silent, so it didn't pop up. But the drive will eject, and it should say safe to remove hardware. In the case that it says it's still in use, just click OK, try again once or twice more, and it should eject fully. Then for now, you're going to pull your drive out, and you can set it somewhere for now. Here is something that I recommend doing right now, in fact, as well, is noting down what your boot key is going to be. Now, what is this? Essentially, when we restart our computer, we have to tell it which drive to boot on, because we're not booting to our normal hard drive, and it's not automatically booting into it like we normally would. we have to tell it to boot to the flash drive because that's where the installation files will be for the installation. For this, I recommend just looking up your computer's model number, or just what the name of the computer or the manufacturer of the computer is. So for me, I would just look up HP boot menu key. And for many computers, it will be F12. For me, in my case, it is F9, which it pretty much tells me here. The generic HP boot menu keys are escape and F9. For me, it's F9. It may take you a little bit to find out what these boot keys are, and unfortunately, there's not too much I can do because everyone's computer is entirely different and may have a different boot key. Future editing me here, you're going to want to make sure at this point that your flash drive was back into your computer. I don't know why I said to remove the flash drive, but I didn't want to edit all those parts out because then maybe something wouldn't make sense. So I'm just putting this in here to let you guys know. So just make sure your flash drive is plugged in, and with whatever boot key you found, when I say like press it, like you're gonna do like a rapid press, like just start constantly pressing that key when your computer's restarting. And for some of you, you might hear a beep when you press it, but for some of you, it's, you know, you'll just see it show like going in the boot menu or whatever, and then that would be it. So yeah. Then you want to go and restart your computer to boot off of the flash drive now and begin the installation. So we're going to hit restart and plug in your USB drive. And then with whichever boot key you found, once Windows goes blank and stuff, you want to start spamming that key. So in this case, I'm going to start spamming the F9 key, and then that will bring us to our boot menu here on our computer. Now we already have our flash drive plugged in, like I said before, and we are going to simply choose the flash drive from here. In the case that you don't see the flash drive show up, it's probably because your computer is on a different mode than what the BIOS was set to boot to. The BIOS is essentially a window you most likely have never seen before. These are the configuration settings for your computer itself, discluding Windows. So essentially from here, there's a lot of things you can control, including your system's time and whatnot. The BIOS is usually a different key, and it's just like the boot menu. You would turn your computer off, turn it back on, start spamming that key. You may also have to look up online how to find the key to boot into your BIOS. But for this, we're going to go, for me it's system configuration, but usually you might have, I'll show a few images on the screen here, maybe advanced or some more advanced options areas in these BIOSes. You might also have a tab that just says boot, and in this case for me, I'm going to press boot, boot options, and I'm going to go down a little bit. For you, it might give you an option that says UEFI or legacy. For me, I have three options, but it really it's UEFI or legacy. And if you have an MBR install that you put on the drive, you're going to simply select legacy, and then you're going to hit exit and save, and then you're going to go back to the boot screen and boot from the flash drive. If you have a GPT flash drive, you're just going to want to hit UEFI native, and you're going to want to exit and save and go into the boot menu if that wasn't already selected. Future editing me here again. In the BIOS, you may notice that switching back to legacy if you chose an MBR mode might be locked, and in that case you may have to disable secure boot, and usually this is going to be located in one of your security options. This should only be if you are choosing to use an MBR disk. If you chose GPT before, then you should just already have it on UEFI, and you should be fine with just going to the boot menu and booting off the flash drive. Anyways though, I'm going to hit exit and because I don't need to change anything, I'm going to hit no. And I am going to boot into my boot menu again, as we were. Some of you probably already were able to do this before, but I was just showing the other people. Then we're going to boot from our flash drive. So I'm going to hit external USB flash drive. And you will see the Windows 11 logo, which essentially just looks like a reversed Windows 10 logo with some other stuff. So Windows 11 installation is currently booting and setting up, and it'll load for a second or two. I will cut to when it is done loading. And as we can see, the Windows 11 installation is now loaded. From here, essentially, you just want to pick your region settings. Me being in the US, I'm just going to have all of these default settings here and click Next. Then I'm going to click Install Now. Here is what I was saying about the activation code. So, if your computer, and if you know this for sure, your computer was not licensed before, Windows 11 should accept a Windows 10 license code. In some cases, though, it might be a little bit iffy, but for the most part, it should accept a license code if it is working. It is something to mention that some of you have a computer that has the license key automatically put into maybe the BIOS or something. So some of you might not even see the screen. It might automatically go to the accept terms, the I agree screen. So if you're there and you have that situation, just simply wait there. I'm going to show the other people who don't have this type of situation what they need to do, and then we'll get to that part a little later in the video. I will actually be setting timestamps so you can see where we begin with each step. Now, for other users who were activated before, and this is why I said note down the version, because if you have a license key, it will automatically know the version, but for us, it will determine whether that license key is valid that we already had before later on. And right now, we're going to say I don't have a product key, and it's going to have us pick the operating system version that we had. So essentially what you want to have is, let's say we have Windows 10 Home before, we want to do Windows 11 Home. If we had Windows 10 Pro before, we want to do Windows 11 Pro. It's essentially kind of just the same name, same thing. This will ensure that the license rolls over into Windows 11, so you're using a licensed operating system. We're going to click Windows 11 Pro, and we're going to click Next. Now, for some of you, you might have requirements that allow for this, and others will see this. This essentially means that your system does not meet the requirements to run Windows 11. There is a bypass. However, let me quickly say, for those users who don't see this and see a different screen that says like agree, just wait there for a second. I need to show the other users what we can do to get them on that too, if they want to. Now, for those users who are seeing this and still want to bypass this, I need to make you aware of some things. So Microsoft wants to make sure that hardware is up to date. Bypassing this may lead to some features not working properly in Windows 11 related to both security and just regular software functions. To proceed with this though, simply exit out and click yes. Then on your keyboard, begin to hold the Shift key and the F10 key at the same time. Once you hit those down, you should see a CMD prompt, otherwise known as a command prompt, show up. Here, you then want to type regedit, regedit, which opens the Registry Editor for Windows, and then we're going to hit enter to open it. Then we are going to go, and on the left side, hit the down arrow next to the H key local machine, hit the down arrow next to the system, and hit the down arrow next to setup. Then, over the setup folder, we want to right click and then hover over new and then select key. We are going to name this key capital L, lowercase a, lowercase b, capital C, lowercase o, lowercase n, lowercase f, lowercase I, lowercase g. That spells lab config. I guess maybe there was some type of configuration for testing they did, but this is a method to bypass Windows 11. So this L and the C need to be capitalized, and it's lab config just like that. And then you just want to click in this open window, and if you don't have it selected, select this key or this folder. And then in this folder, you want to right click, hover over new, and click dword 32-bit value. In here, you want to type capital B, lowercase y, lowercase p, lowercase a, lowercase s, uppercase T, uppercase P, uppercase M, uppercase C, lowercase h, lowercase e, lowercase c, lowercase k. That spells bypass TPM check. So this B has to be capital, the TPM and the C right here need to be capital, the rest can be lowercase, and we're going to hit enter to save that in its place. We're then going to right click again, hover over new, and click dword 32-bit value once again. We're going to do capital B, lowercase y, lowercase p, lowercase a, lowercase s, capital S, lowercase e, lowercase c, lowercase u, lowercase r, lowercase e, capital B, lowercase o, lowercase t, capital C, lowercase h, lowercase e, lowercase c, lowercase k. This spells bypass secure boot check. The B, the S, this B, and the C need to be capitalized, while the rest are all lowercase. Then you can hit enter on that to save the name. And you want to double click on each one of these. So I'm going to double click on the first one and click here, erase the 0, and give it a 1. And I have to type 1 on here. And give it a 1. And then click OK. 0 basically means no, and 1 means yes. So we're setting yes. And then we click on the second one, and we're also going to type 1. And click OK. From there, we should be able to now get past this. We can just exit out of here, and then click install. And it will load in a second. Then we do the same thing I talked about before. If you have a license key, enter it. But if Windows was already activated before, you don't need to, and you can just click I don't have a product key. And then if you had Windows 10 Home before, select Windows 11 Home, Windows 10 Pro before, Windows 11 Pro to ensure your license stays for Windows. I'm going to click Windows 11 Pro, and I'm going to click Next. And now you will see something a little bit different. You will now see the accept thing like everyone else before was seeing. You will now see this accept thing. Now you're going to click the check mark to I accept, assuming that you have read these terms all the way through and agree to accept them. So I have read them and I'm going to accept, so I'm going to click Next. We're going to click Custom, and from here we're going to see all of the partitions and drives and whatnot that are in our machine. Now, for most of you, you will only have one drive, but if you might, some people might have multiple drives in their computers. Maybe you have a computer that your friend gave to you, and maybe he never told you there were 2 drives in your computer, and maybe you're just finding this out. The way that you can tell, though, if you have multiple drives is, partitions are like different folders in one drive. The one way you can simply see how many drives you have is that my drive says drive 0 for all of them, so I have 1 drive. If I have a drive down here that says drive 1, and these are all drive 0, that means I have 2 different drives. Drive 2, drive 3, those would all be different drives. All of mine are drive 0. So if you do have multiple drives, you want to make sure you're using the right drive, and if you knew the capacity of your drive before, then that would be the drive that you do use. But you may need to delete all of these to figure out what they are. So for me though, anyways, that was a little bit confusing. Simply said, for most of you, you're just going to have one drive. We're just going to hit delete on all of them. And hit delete, and you will see the list get shorter. And this is what I meant by this. So it shows the total size of the drive. If you have a different drive, it will not allow you to combine this into one because they are two physical different drives. For me though, I deleted all of them and it's one, so that's my one drive right there, drive 0. Then when you have everything deleted, you will simply want to make sure this says unallocated space, and then from there you will essentially just click next. And from here, Windows 11 will begin to copy over all the files and install to your hard drive. This process will take a little bit of time, but actually might be shorter than downloading the Windows 11 thing and all that. So this might actually be faster for some people. Depends on your hardware specifications. And another thing to note is that you will see Windows restart a few times, as it needs to restart in order to make sure all the files are in place and stuff like this. I will cut to the next part in the video that you should see when Windows 11 finishes installing and copying over the files. And Windows is done installing and is now going to ask us to start setting some preferences for Windows 11. First, by asking us what country or region we're in, so I'm just going to click yes on this. And then it's going to ask us for a keyboard layout. We're going to hit yes here. And it's going to ask us if we want to add a second one. You can if you want, but for default we're going to click skip. And then Microsoft is going to ask us to set up a network connection. And essentially, it really comes down to two things. If you are fine with setting up your Microsoft account and being forced to set up a Microsoft account, you can connect to the Wi-Fi or whatever network you're using now. If you would like to put a local account on Windows and not be forced to add a Microsoft account, local account just being type in a name and a password, and simple like that, then click I don't have internet. Really quickly, this is me in editing mode later, realizing I sort of forgot to say something. So for the people who are choosing to connect to the internet and use a Microsoft account, you're going to go through a little update process and restart, and then once it finishes, it's going to ask you to input a name for the computer, and then after that it will ask you personal or organization use. You will click personal use, and then you click next, and then it will ask you to put your Microsoft account. But I didn't say that before, so figured I should just put that in right now. I also just realized while editing that some of you may not have the choice to say I don't have internet. If you had supported hardware and met the minimum requirements, some of you may actually be forced to connect to the internet to set up Windows. And unfortunately, there's no certain bypass that I can show that would work for that, so you may just have to add a Microsoft account. But I hope that you have the choice to do I don't have internet if you didn't want to use a Microsoft account, but it may not show up. I was just starting to realize that during editing, so I thought that I would add that in now. And then once you do that, you're going to click continue with limited setup. And for the other people who have chosen to connect, just wait there for a second. So for you guys, it would say, for the other people, it would say sign in the Microsoft account. You would sign in. And for these people choosing to do the local account, as you can see on my screen, we're going to type just our name. I'm just going to type user for my name. Going to click enter, and you could set a password. So we'll set, I don't know, we could set a password here and press enter. And it's going to ask us for a password confirmation, and it's going to make us put 3 security questions. I can't spell today. Oh my gosh, I can't type. Third one. I don't know. I'm just going to put the same thing for all of them. it's happy. And then it's going to ask us to choose some privacy settings, which for those people who also put in the Microsoft account after, this is also what they should see. Might have you guys do an extra step, but I don't know. It should just basically bring you to this screen though, and if you want to set any of these, I usually just leave this as default though, and then you click accept. And for the most part, that's it. Windows will start loading now into the basic operating system. This will be sort of like what Windows 10 does, where it says hi, getting things ready for you, and if you've seen that before ever. But it's going to load a little bit like this for a few seconds, I think. Yeah, you got that new Windows 11 blurry thing in the background. I'm going to cut to right as it's going to finish. And right around where it says almost there, Windows will finish loading, and you are finally on the operating system. And it was quite it was a little lengthy process, but it's fine. We're here now, and so there are a few things here that are, of course, different with Windows 11, but this is the installation for Windows 11. Now, what I want to show you, and by the way, I recommend restarting once, just because, but for the purpose of this video, I'm not going to restart just right now. I want to show the users really quickly how to get their flash drive back from using this as an installation drive. So first of all, you're going to plug this in to your computer. I ended up unplugging it, but for some of you, or most of you, it might still be plugged in. And you'll see whatever it's in. If it was already plugged in through the installation process, it's already plugged in. Then you can right click on Start and click Disk Management, similar to what we did in the beginning of the video. There's two things here. If you set your drive as GPT, that means you'll have to delete two things, and with MBR, that means you have to delete one thing. So my drive was a GPT drive, so I'll show you guys. For GPT, you just have this extra UEFI and TFS file that you just need to delete the volume for, and just click yes. And for everyone else, including these MBR people and GPT people, you're both going to have to delete this drive right here, so go ahead and delete that volume, the Comex. You also notice that both of them are down here as well. And then just click delete volume. And then once you delete that, you have an unallocated drive. You want to just hit that and then click new volume. Just click next, leave that default, leave that default. From here, you might want to set this to NTFS, and you can rename your drive whatever you'd like. You probably never dealt with this before, but yeah, this is how you would name your drive. Perform a quick format, so it'll wipe all the files off the drive, make it back to a normal USB flash drive again. Gonna click next, finish, and it should. Oh, sometimes it will do this, and I'm glad I got this because for some of you it might do this. What you want to do is close out of here now, and for some reason Windows sometimes makes you format it again. So just click File Explorer, and then you'd click here where your drive was, and just click Format Disk one more time. It looks very similar to what I was doing before. This is a Lexar drive. I'm just gonna rename it once more. NTFS start. Okay. And for some reason this just does this. This fixes. This works. I don't know why. It just does. There we go. And close. And there you go. Now you have the drive. And it's renamed, and you have a full drive right here, Lexar, as you can see. So yes, and then you can just eject that if you want, like that. Again, I don't know why Windows 11 is in silent mode. It's supposed to show the notification, but it doesn't. So I'm just gonna take this drive out. Future editor me here. Don't forget to connect your computer to the Wi-Fi network. For those of you who didn't do it before and wanted a local account, just don't forget to press connect. And it might also bring a pop-up saying do you still want to connect your Microsoft account, and you'll just click cancel if that does pop up, but it might. So anyways though, there were quite a lot of steps in there, and I'm sure that there are some unanswered questions that you guys are going to have. So if you have any questions, just feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I will make sure to answer to all of your questions, because it is quite a process. And even though I said it was easy in a way, this is still maybe somewhat complicated to some people. So anyways though, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.